Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee and Contracts. I'm your co-host. I'm your host, Rusty Witten, here on Coffee and Contracts. Excited about today's episode to kind of deep dive on some back office, some AI, and some really cool stuff that's happening in the medical field with my guy, Zane Dash, the CEO of Axon Health. Zane, how are you today, buddy?
Doing well, Rusty. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I understand. First podcast you've ever been on. So I'm honored that you're here with me, man, hanging out. This means a lot. I appreciate it.
That's right. It'll all start here,
That's
so
it.
I'm very happy to be here.
So no pressure on me at all, right? Like if this goes well or not, like this could launch a podcast career is what you're saying.
Maybe, another line of business. So
yeah, that's it, man. That's it. In 2026, it's all about diversity, diversifying what you do and providing a lot of avenues, which it sounds like Axon Health does as well. But you got to be diverse in the marketplace today. And so we can add podcaster to your resume. Our audience is still growing. We're getting more week by week, more views. So hopefully this is a launch of some great podcasting for you.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, I saw you have some great guests on here. So I hope do them justice. And yeah, excited to be a part of this growing product.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And again, like for those just tuning in for the first time, Coffee and Contracts is the way that we sip some coffee, we have some conversations, we talk about real estate, we talk about life, we talk about how to grow your practice and grow your business. And so I like to have different people from different avenues within the medical space, both from a real estate, from a back of office, from a billing, from a supply. So if you haven't watched the episodes, make sure after this one, you go back and check out some of the other ones that apply to you and subscribe while you're here, turn those notifications on so you can know when we go live here on Coffee and Contracts each and every Wednesday with a different guest. So I'm excited to have Zane today. So Zane, before we get into what Axon Health does and what your role is and what the company's trying to do, who is Zane Dash? What's your background and how did you get to Axon Health?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from North Carolina. I grew up in a small beach town on the coast, Wilmington. And then grew up there, went to school in Boston, then came out to San Francisco, where the company is based, to work at a technology company and really cut my teeth and get experience in building out technology and AI. And so how I personally got to Axon is that when I was in school, I started pre-med, and I did a lot of shadowing physicians from small independent practices all the way up to large hospital systems. And it was a really incredible experience. I found that I was less interested in some of the clinical side and directly providing patient care so much as the technology. I really like the technology that goes into medicine, but I identified like there's a real opportunity to use technology to improve how practices operate. I was talking to doctors in Mass General, and they were talking to me about how much admin work they have to deal with, and it's the same on the scale of a smaller independent practice. And so came out to San Francisco, myself and the co-founders really got strong technology background and experience. And then we said, hey, there's this area here of healthcare practices and how they operate that we can apply this skill set to that's really meaningful. And so we got together, we started building the company, and then things have taken off and been a rocket ship since then.
I love that, man. That's awesome. I think we talked about this when we first met back in the day, we first connected back, I guess, beginning of this year into last year. I was in Pawleys Island for about 6 years. Love Wilmington. It's one of my favorite places to visit. Growing up there had to be something, man. You're just right there at the beach. You're close to like Outer Banks. There's some great beach there, Riceville Beach area. And as an adult, I love Wilmington because it's one of the best beer cities outside of Memphis, where I currently live. But Wilmington's beer scene is really, really something, man.
Yeah. They've got a lot of nice breweries and microbreweries and all sorts of things going on. Downtown is really great. I'm actually going to be going back to Wilmington in a few days, actually, for a family event. Nice. So, it's going to be nice to reacquaint myself with that.
Yeah, exactly. Some say East Coast, Best Coast, some say West Coast. We won't get into that argument here on this show. That's for another podcast. But today,
that's right.
We're going to dive in a little bit. So what if somebody is hearing about Axon Health for the first time? What's your elevator pitch? Tell them what Axon Health is and what y'all are about.
Absolutely. So we provide front and back office services for healthcare practices across the country. We work with medical and dental practices, and we will help them with their billing, marketing, credentialing, reception, new patient intake, patient engagement, and a whole lot more as well, SEO and websites. And what we do is we partner with these practices, and we really build out long-term partnerships. So everything we offer is modular. It goes directly on top of their existing systems. It's all a la carte, so people can choose what they need. And then we will work with them to figure out whatever part of their practice isn't operating as efficiently as it can, and then target that and build something that is custom to their needs. And so we're saving practices across the country 5 to 6 figures a year. And, we are growing super fast, and we see this tremendous opportunity to just take how practices currently operate and transform it for the better. And so that's the elevator pitch for us is we're building out partnerships, we're saving that money, and, we're working to elevate practices.
Absolutely. Help kind of optimize what they're doing to make sure there's no leaks in the system. As we talked about on an episode last week, we were talking about leaky systems in aesthetics practices. You're helping that in the medical and dental verticals. Is that fair to say?
Yes. And the leaks is one way of putting it. But when the leak is big enough, it's a gaping hole. It's a huge
for sure.
issue. And, we see that more often than not with a lot of, without a lot of practices out there. And that's what we're here to solve.
Yeah, exactly. So what did you see happening in the healthcare market that made you say there has to be a better way than this? Like, what was it that triggered you to create this a la carte business model?
Yeah. So, some of it goes back to the shadowing experience that I had way back when in school. I would see physicians just sitting there and they'd be doing documentation. I remember, this was not too long ago, but I was seeing a ER doctor do a transcription of a note into Epic portal. I think it was Epic. Mm-hmm. And the transcription, it was missing, every few words were inaccurate. It was noisy. So some words weren't even coming through. And I was just like, there should be a way this is automatically gathered from, what's going on, because this is a doctor who's running from room to room to room to room. And, doesn't have the time for this, needs a break, and the technology at that point, we were close to what we have, but not quite there in terms of AI currently. But it was things like that. And then it was meeting with other practices and learning that they have super high denial rates on their billing. So, some of their money's getting left on the table by, an existing billing service. It was meeting practices that are having trouble answering every call at the front desk, because that front desk person has the job of saying hi to people, of handling documentation, of handling random needs for the practice throughout the day. Sometimes they just can't pick up the phone, and that's frustrating for patients. It's all across the practice is what we're seeing.
Yeah, I like that. And just helping, you nailed it, man. Like, as a former practitioner myself, you're helping optimize those times. Back when I was a PT full-time, like you said, it was patient, one after the other. And there was no time to try and put out fires and make sure we're billing appropriately and make sure there was these issues were resolved. You needed systems in place to help that be efficient to where you can do what you do best and what these providers can do what they do best. And that's see patients, not be on the phone, not be on the computer, not doing these other things, but they're actually changing and impacting lives. And if Axon can help in and streamline some of that, you can stop some of those leaks before they become large gaps, but you can also give doctors and practitioners time back in their day.
Exactly. And that time goes directly back into patient care, into their happiness. It's absolutely, that is what we're focused on in terms of impacting how practices operate.
Yeah, so, that's awesome. Yeah. For sure, man. I love that. And so, when you're looking at a practice on your one pager, y'all say that on average, clinic can leave about $150,000 on the table annually. Where do you see that money leaking out? Is it the small leaks? Is it the large gaps? What does that look like?
So the leaks really are everywhere. So, billing, for example. So many practices will outsource billing to a third-party service. And often they're paying very high costs. And sometimes the billing service is not doing the best job and it has a really high denial rate. So we can come in, and part of what we offer, the model for our services is that we're using technology and we're using AI to make things as efficient as possible in terms of how we do a service, how we bill, how we credential. But we have expert people who are monitoring the work of our systems to make sure that it's all done correctly. Mm-hmm. And so what that looks like is we'll come in for a practice and we can provide our services for a very competitive price, but still provide a premium experience. And so, if we're coming in and we're looking at existing billing service, often the price is high, and sometimes there's not enough attention being paid to that specific practice's needs. And so we'll come in, we'll be able to trim the cost significantly, sometimes by more than 50% relative to their existing billing pricing.
Wow.
And then we'll be able to improve performance by reducing the amount of time spent in AR and reducing the denial rate significantly in many cases. So that's just billing. Credentialing, sometimes people have long delays before they can get credentialed with the right payers in their network. Other times their marketing campaigns are being done by a national company that's not paying enough attention and is maybe overcharging in some cases for the work provided. So it is all across the practice. And with just one of our solutions, we're seeing, 5-figure impact in terms of profit. You put those together, we're easily looking at 5 to 6 figures. So.
Yeah. And it adds up quickly, right? Because you don't realize, like, if you've got little leaks in several places, then that's money that's just slipping through. Like you said, AR, like I got chills down my spine when you said that, because so many times these billing cycles and these bills go out and they just sit in accounts receivable because we don't have the right code in, the right information, the right message going out. And there are certain payers that just take longer. But if you can help optimize and streamline some of that in the way you code and submit and how you do that in a timely manner, it can cut some of those lag times down significantly.
Yes, significantly. And we're making sure that, our team is up to date on what are the right codes to be billing. Are there updates to regulation that we need to be considering? I mean, we're making sure that we get that coding right because of just how important that is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So let's say you walk into a typical kind of independent practice, medical practice today, and you sat down at the table with the doctor and with the team. What are the first things you would look at to find that lost revenue?
So one of the big ones is unscheduled treatment. And so, That's,
as a PT trying to get patients to come in 2 or 3 times a week back in my heyday, like, you're speaking my love language there, Zane.
Good. Yes, absolutely. So, as you said, like, they're across dental, across medical. Like in dental, there are treatment plans that will just sit there that aren't acted on, that have to be followed up on. There are, referrals that are being made that the patient doesn't follow up on. And so there's somebody in the practice that's having to manage that referral, make sure it's going to the right person. There's sometimes just, a patient's busy, a practice is busy, and sometimes there's just a missing link in terms of communication, in terms of let's get this scheduled and on the schedule for the year. So unscheduled treatment is huge. Many cases we're seeing practices that have 5 to 6 figures in unscheduled treatment that's just sitting there that they don't have the capacity to address. So for example, that's where our patient engagement tool would come in and they can do outreach to those people. Often we'll also look at billing. And so we'll compare we'll compare everything that we have on the billing side in terms of payments, in terms of claims, and we'll look against the encounters and the notes that are being written. And we'll say, okay, we'll do a full audit, and we provide this often complimentary for our practices, so we can see, okay, here's some opportunities.
That's huge.
Just from the bat. Yeah, thank you. But what we'll look at is, are they undercoding? Are they potentially not, coding to the extent that they could be, or not providing sufficient supporting documentation, and that's causing a lot of errors in the billing and AR process. Very often, in billing, in medical billing, 99214s can become 99215s, 213s can become 214s. There's a lot of opportunity, and that difference is meaningful, especially it adds up very quickly over a large patient base. So, collections, billing, and then the last thing is, we'll often look, especially on the dentist side, on the dental side, we'll look at payer mix. So is this dentist working with the right payers to get reimbursed, the best in their market? If not, what can we do to fix that? Can we get them credentialed? And can we, potentially downsize plans that aren't working as well?
Yeah.
And maybe to a more concierge model. So it's those 3 things. And I mean, it's a ton, but those 3 things are a great place to start.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Again, in PT, that's a lot of what we looked at. We looked at unscheduled visits, like patients, were they coming in for their full treatment plan of care, their prescribed amount? Were they doing the prescribed exercises and treatments that they were supposed to be doing? And then are we capturing those codes, the 97110, the 97112s that are showing to the insurance payers that we're doing a good, skilled care service to these patients? And then is it getting trapped out there in the ether? Like, is it going to the right people at the right time? How is it being billed and sent out? Is a huge part of medical practice you don't really realize. So as an operator, like, that's speaking to my heart. When I was over 12 clinics and I was over 9 in Myrtle Beach and helped kind of grow those, like, we were looking at those all the time. Like, how can we be more efficient? Can we be more streamlined? And so having a team like Axon in your corner can certainly help with that, because again, you don't go to school to sit and look at codes and billing all day long. You go to treat the patient in front of you. And from a PT perspective, like, that's to put hands on and treat patients and get them better. Same with a dentist. That's to be doing procedures that you can bill for. If you can have back of house or front of house that kind of helps streamlines that, man, like, easily $150,000 can be picked up in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. And, if somebody's like, well, I've already got somebody managing referrals, or I've already got, a billing team I really like, they've been billing for our practice for 25 years. That's excellent. We want you to keep that person. What we're proposing is we come in and we provide some support, for what that person can't reasonably cover during the day.
Yeah.
So we're making sure that we're filling those gaps.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
not a replacement thing. It's only a support thing.
Which is where the a la carte comes in nice, that you can kind of
Exactly.
pick and choose what you need for your practice. You don't have to sign up for a big sweeping broad brushstroke type program, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Some, and some practices only need one thing, some need everything. And so we're very flexible there. And it's a model that's worked really well.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've talked about it, right? Y'all do everything from billing and patient acquisition to credentialing and prior auth, AI reception, clinical scribing. All of that is included in your package. Which of those trends do you think have the biggest immediate impact if Axon came in and helped a practice?
So billing is often huge. And I know we keep talking about billing. It's like, third or fourth time I brought it up, but billing is huge. We can come in, we can have our systems live within, days to a week. And then we can immediately start recovering AR that's just sitting there, and then improve collections from then on. People will see an impact in their first billing cycle. So people will see an impact, certainly within the first quarter, but within months. They're going to see claims immediately getting processed. Any denials immediately being followed up with. We handle patient billing as well, so collections there. The billing impact is hard to overstate. Marketing is also significant. So, there are a lot of startup practices that need to build awareness of who they are, what they're doing, especially in competitive markets. And every market is getting more competitive. And so we'll come in, we'll do marketing. We will make sure we will take over, in certain cases, we'll take over from existing marketing agencies or just provide marketing support that there wasn't already there. And then, we will instantly improve the number of new patient visits that are being booked in a week. We will improve the conversion within the funnel. So, everybody from every stage, from filling out a form online all the way to actually coming in for the appointment. The marketing can have a huge impact, especially because practices don't really want to be running it themselves. So that's been also very meaningful. And then, patient engagement, again, if you're a practice that's having difficulty converting patients who are interested into patients who show up for their appointment, we have tools to target and personalize outreach to everybody on your roster. We integrate with the practice management system. We provide visibility that no one else can. And then you're going to see that funnel moving so much more efficiently. Because as you said, like sometimes people just don't have the effort to do that outreach. So that's a tool where immediately you're going to see that funnel operating a lot more effectively and just a much healthier practice.
Yeah, again, and the more it's streamlined, the healthier their practice is. Like you've said that so many times, like it's just all about optimization. And sometimes that is a pride thing. I know for me, like I thought I was running a great clinic. I knew how to run a great region, but sometimes asking for help is one of the hardest things to do. You don't realize how unoptimized your system might be until you have a third party set of eyes kind of looking at it. And so I'm sure you've walked into situations like that where people thought they were running a good business, and then you're able to open some eyes on some leaky systems, some gaping holes, as you talked about earlier, and we're able to help point people in the right direction, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the practices that we're working with, these are doctors and clinicians who are the best in the world at what they do, but they're not being trained in many cases in how to, operate practices. And so that's an area where we can come in, where we can have people on our team who have 25 years in the industry, working with a dentist who's just out of school and saying, here are the things that you have to get right for this new practice that's launching. So absolutely. I mean, many practices operate really, really well. Many practices could use a lift. We want to be that lift for people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so that kind of brings a question for a doctor who says, hey, look, I'm ready to leave a hospital system and I'm opening my own practice. What are some of the first things they should start thinking about when they're getting that back of house, front of house built?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and it really varies a lot in terms of what they should look at. I would say that one of the key things is, how much staff do I want to have for this practice? How much do I have the budget for? And how much do I want to outsource? Because that decision, it takes a lot of time to hire the right person to staff the practice. So if somebody wants to start day one with a front office person and a billing person and someone else to manage the practice, then they need to have that plan set up immediately. Because, too often they've got all other aspects of the practice set up. They've got, the space, they've got the lease, they've got the loan, they've got the equipment. But, that key aspect of operations and who's actually going to run this thing can sometimes be a later consideration. So, if you're thinking about going independent, that is the first thing to think about. And then if you do decide to outsource, then you want to say, okay, who are services that can come in and provide me that key support to get this practice on its feet. We'll often work with practices and, we'll be that first key support for them until they get to, a stable level of performance. And, then their only concerns are scaling and not just getting things started. And so at that point, when they're at a stable level of performance, maybe they want to bring somebody on. Maybe they want to have us work in conjunction with someone. We are able to provide that key level of support. And so having those sorts of operational questions answered early is key. It's also just like once you figure that out, then you're able to get connected to the right vendor partners and the other partners in the community and say, hey, how am I going to get this credentialing set up? And then that's where you get connected with people who are just gonna make it easy for you.
You kind of nailed it, man. A huge part of what you and I do, me on the real estate side, you in the actual like office management side, is the vendor game, getting connected with the right people who can help move. Because you and I are not going to have all the answers, but we know a lot of people who do. And so if you're an independent practitioner out there, or you're thinking about becoming one, getting in touch with somebody in your market, like a Zane, like myself, like these people who can help be those dot connectors and excuse me, problem solvers for you, is key to helping you get to the finish line. Because like, this might be your first foray into, a private practice or practice ownership or even a partnership with somebody. We've done this time and time again. So making sure you have the right team around you. And so it kind of comes to the next question, Zane, like, who is the right team around people that you think should be helping them start and launch their practice?
Yeah. So there are a few things to look for in a team. So for context, we're national. And so for a ton of key markets across the country, we identify what's that best team that we want to be working with and we want to have our clients working with. And so the things to look for in that team, are they local? Do they understand the intricacies of my market? Because believe it or not, that varies. Markets vary a lot in terms of what's important, what's worth prioritizing, what's sustainable. So we look for who's someone who really intimately understands this market. Are they positioned to be a long-term partner to this practice? Are they focused on the sale, or are they focused genuinely on the health of the practice? Do they have referrals from, their own partners, from clients that we're able to look at and say, wow, this person does a really, really great job, and then, often like their ability to personalize what they do to a specific practice. So many have a one-size-fits-all offering. Many, on the other hand, will sit down with the doctor, make sure they've got every T crossed and every I dotted, and make sure that that doctor is stepping into something they're comfortable with, not just whatever's the standard offering off the shelf. So, that's often the right team. That's the things we look for.
Yeah, exactly. The right players who know the market and are not just those that are puffing smoke and full of hot air, but ones who are getting deals done, ones that are connecting dots, ones that can come in, give you the time of day and listen to your pain points and your pinch points and what worked at your last practice and what didn't, right? When you're going to launch your own, you're going to blend in yours, but you're also going to take some things from your previous practice that might have worked really well. And so finding the right partners to help streamline that, whether that's from an AI or a billing or a credentialing or a real estate or whatever like avenue that we're talking about here, you need to make sure that the right people are in your corner that are there to help get you to the finish line.
Yes. And a note on that is that a lot of people really do want to help. A lot of people really do want to offer support and be there, but some just can't. And that's great. And we recognize that and we appreciate that. But, we have to hold ourselves to a standard and hold others to the standard of doing everything possible for the client. And just like you said, that's everything. So,
I mean, a big thing about what they teach us at CAR in our training is very much like, say what you're going to do and then do what you say you're going to do, and just finding people that can be on your team that can do that. And you'll find out, you'll learn very much about people pretty quickly and what they can and cannot do for you. And so just trust your gut, but finding those right people in your corner can be huge for starting a new practice.
Yes.
So we've made it 24, almost 25 minutes, and I have waited long to ask this question because I think you're a big AI guy, right? Like y'all use a lot of AI integration, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about AI and what that looks like for the future of healthcare.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about it right now. So what is AI legitimately great at inside of medical practice? What are some things that it can truly help people with?
Yeah. So AI is great at the repetitive and time consuming parts of running a medical practice and any healthcare practice for that matter. So for sending out messages for patient engagement, a campaign or an appointment follow-up or an appointment reminder. AI is great at that. AI is great at taking notes, especially given a reference of how a doctor likes to write a clinical note. AI is great at writing that note in their style completely and taking, a 15-minute process and accomplishing it in 30 seconds. AI is great at the repetitive, time-consuming tasks on which it has data on how the practice would want to have something done. Some of those key decisions around, some of those key judgment calls, rather. Judgment calls are some of the things where AI is still getting better. So, does this make sense, not just in the short term, but in the long term? Is this the way that I want my practice to grow, or do I maybe want to try a new model for something? Those key judgment calls are still things that it can't quite help with, but it can do a lot of the everyday administrative, repetitive processes. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Cause you kind of answered my next question was, so that's what AI is good at. What are some things we should leave to the human side of it? And like you said, those critical, those creative thinking, those immediate decisions, sometimes AI gets a little funky. I mean, I use ChatGPT all the time for both work and play and for this podcast and others and everything I got going on. But you always have to edit it with a grain of salt because it is AI. It's still learning, it's still evolving. It's always going to require that human touch, like especially when you're connecting with a person, because you're treating a person, not a number, not a chart, not anything other than a human being.
Yes.
And so if we can provide that good quality care with that human touch, but use AI for what it's good for, streamline and double checking billing and making processes more efficient on the back end, then that could be a huge win for a medical practice using both.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, AI is never going to replicate the human touch. AI is never going to be, I hear a lot of people in the news talking about, we're going to have AI doctors, we're going to have robots, or we're going to have somebody talking to their smartphone. That's not going to happen. Yeah. Human connection is key, and that's what keeps a patient coming back. And so,
exactly.
Just like you said,
I was going to say, I think we're heading towards a future where AI is more prevalent in the medical space, but there will never be a place where AI completely replaces the human element of it.
No, not at all.
Because you think about the reasons you go to your doctor, right? You go to your doctor because you have a good relationship with them. You go to your dentist because you can connect with them. They hear you out. They treat you, but you can have conversations about things that are and are not going well. And you get that human touch and that empathy from them. AI is learning, but I don't think empathy is one thing it's really good at right now.
Yeah. AI doesn't understand the challenges that come with being human, and AI doesn't understand what makes people in many cases unique. So, if somebody has a specific vision for how they want their practice to function, sometimes AI can't get all of that. AI can get the small details, but, that human aspect is just something that I don't think it's possible to replicate. And, that's why we have in our company AI and technology doing all the repetitive processes, and then humans making the key judgment calls that make sure practice can perform well.
Yeah, that's huge, man, because the blended practices are the ones that are winning and winning big. The ones that have a little bit of both are the ones that you are like most successful with. From, you've got the human touch, but AI streamlined your billing. You got the human touch, but AI has maximized your credentialing or sped up the process. Like those are the ones that are winning and winning big in the marketplace, but you'll never be able to truly replace. And this is something that I had a little bit of beef is maybe not the right word, but just some kind of questions about. My previous employer when I was still in the PT space was going more and more towards like a fully AI front desk like experience. And I think there's a place for that in the marketplace that can help. But when you're trying to convince hypothetical Mary to come see you on and off for the rest of her life, do like for her back pain or knee pain or hip pain to keep her playing pickleball, a computer is not going to do that. Like it may streamline it to where it makes it more efficient for her, but I can tell you from experience that the front desk personality can make or break your practice. And right now, in this day and age in 2026, maybe in a few years down the road when some of this older generation is not seeking healthcare services as much anymore, that may change. But having that personal human touch at the front desk will always be a win for those practices.
Yes, it's the first contact that somebody has with a practice. It's their reputation, once they get inside the waiting room. And so, I completely agree. I'll see kiosks, I'll see, people, fewer staff, and I'll just say, that's an area you can't afford to skimp on. So I completely agree. And I also agree, maybe some younger generations won't prioritize that as much, but I do think there's just something universal that appeals to us about getting into practice, seeing a person, knowing, okay, this is someone who understands what I'm going through and who's ready to provide me the best level of service possible. So,
yeah. And I'm certainly not trying to ruffle feathers here at Axon Health with this next comment, but I think the same thing can be said about the phone, right? Like there are certain people, like again, the newer generation, younger kids that are used to AI and that kind of software can probably get behind it.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, my grandparents and my parents get so frustrated when they call a practice and it's nothing but robots and it's nothing but, I think there's a place for AI to be a connector to the front desk that maybe can help funnel the calls to the front desk, to the billing office, to the HR, like whoever you're trying to get a hold of, scheduling department, whatever that may be. But I still think landing on a human voice on a phone is important to a lot of people, at least in my circle. Is that experience you're seeing as well, Zane, or are we going more towards AI phones?
No, I agree with that very much. I think that the receptionist really is for gaps more than it is anything else. So, I've seen many practice offices where the front desk just can't answer every call. Yeah. And so, if it's between a patient not being able to get through to the front desk or them speaking to, an AI, in many cases, they're going to want to speak to that AI. And, provided you tailor that AI system right to that practice and to that specific group of patients that they're servicing, many patients would rather get through. And so it's that type of gap that we can plug into. But are we going to come in and say, this is going to do a better job than this person, who's been here and who knows the patients? Absolutely not. So it's really that gap that we're targeting. It's really, where can we provide a lift where right now, one is needed. And I think some younger generations may be more open to it as the technology improves. But again, like you said, it's that human component. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, that will never be fully replaced, in my opinion. And like, there are things on the phone that AI can absolutely help with, from appointment confirmation to scheduling issues to billing questions to making payments. There's a lot of things that AI can certainly streamline and take off that front desk to where the front desk can fill in the gaps and it can lighten their workload to where they can actually then give that human touch to the patient in front of them, the one that they need to talk to on the phone, and kind of be the face of that clinic, because AI on the back end is taking care of the appointment confirmations, even like appointment rescheduling, because AI can pull that information from a schedule and give them different times in the future. And then billing and those type things, that payment collection, that you don't necessarily have to have somebody on the phone doing if AI can help make that much more efficient.
Exactly. I mean, you go to the doctor and, sometimes you'll come to the front desk, maybe it's a new practice and you want to make sure you're in network with your insurance. So somebody at the front desk has to be doing an insurance eligibility check, verifying insurance. We have an automated system that verifies insurance a set number of hours before the appointment. So that's customizable to the practice. But basically, no longer does that front desk person have to worry about, I'm going to have to check insurance for every single patient that comes in here today, in addition to the 10 other things that I have to do. So like you said, that feeds directly back into patient experience. That's the kind of thing, that we don't need a human to be doing. And in fact, a human doesn't really want to do. A human wants to be there engaging with the patient and providing a better quality of service.
For sure. That's so good, man. And again, it just keeps going back to the same point. AI is never going to fully replace the human touch, but the practices that are winning are the ones that have found the right recipe to blend the two together, the human touch and AI streamlining. Go ahead.
Yes, and they found the right ways to apply that human touch. That's the key thing. So, it's should we be taking this, this human with a lot of expertise and with a real ability to connect with a patient, which is why they've been in the industry for 25 years, or should they be focusing, their time, should they be focusing their time on patient care or on repetitive administrative tasks, that they don't really need to be doing with where technology is? They should be focusing on patient care. So
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Again, the more you can lighten that load, that's another patient that you can impact. That's another live you can touch. From a financial standpoint, that's another unit you may be able to collect. There's a lot of wins here, all of them circling directly back to patient care, because if you're providing more time, you're able to capture another unit because you've given quality care to that patient with whatever they're coming in to see, no matter the vertical. And so if AI can help streamline some of that, it's a win-win-win for the provider, for the practice, and for the patient.
Yes, 100%.
So what are some things that you have seen from your clients and customers that have set them apart? What are some winning practices that you've seen in practices that help them grow?
That's a great question. So one practice with whom we're actually co-developing a product and piloting it with them and testing it out. One practice wins because they do a great job at maintaining the patient relationship. So what this looks like is personalized messages that go out to patients, maybe after to check in after treatment, or for some event like a birthday. This practice in specific will run like sort of promotions, but not quite promotions. Like, if someone refers a new patient, they'll send them like a dessert or something like that to say, hey, we really appreciate what you've done for us. Here's a token of our gratitude. And so I would say the practices that are really performing well figure out how to build into their system and into their operations that aspect of patient engagement. And so, for some, we are supplying that patient engagement through the tool that goes directly on top of the practice management system, where we're able to, automate some of that outreach while still keeping a personalized touch. For others, we're not providing that service. That's staying with the doctor. That's staying with the front office. And they have the happiest patients. When you see a patient come through the door, and we've been there in person, seeing it, you can tell there's a different energy about that practice because they feel seen by the practice. So that's a huge one. It's also a proactive approach to improving operations. And so there are practices that will sit down with consultants, that will sit down with some of their trusted partners, with fellow practitioners, and they'll say, I'm having this huge issue, or I want to avoid this issue coming up. And so when they are really proactive about, let's address this, let's build the right infrastructure sooner, those are also the practices that we see winning. And, many times, people don't have the training to know, okay, this is something I need to look out for. That's where we try to step in. That's where we try to say, hey, here are all the things you should be looking out for. Here's how you can be more proactive. And here's how you can get ahead of, huge issues that cause others a lot of trouble.
Yeah. And that's kind of a great segue to one of our closing questions. Is I appreciate the time today, man. Almost 40 minutes into this thing. Yeah. It's good information, man. I hope that this is landing with some people that are looking to open practices, because there's so much to take away from how to integrate AI with that human touch. But if you walked in the door of a practice today and they're crushing, they're making good money, but I ask you to make them more profitable without adding a single patient, what are those first markers? And we've talked about this a bit, but this is an opportunity to kind of summarize some of that. But what are those first markers you're going to look at?
So to make them more profitable without adding a single new patient, I would look at the number of repeat visits that we're getting for patients. So, how often and how regularly are existing patients coming in, and how can we re-engage them? I would look at the amount of contact that's being provided in terms of like responsiveness. Are calls being picked up? Is this something that, people are people regularly able to get through to the practice at the right times, or do they keep on having to reach out, and that frustration comes through in a variety of other ways? I would look at how much time is the doctor spending on note-taking and on, reviewing notes at the end of the day. Is this a huge time leak? Is this something that's creeping into their weekends and their evenings? Is this something we can address there, and they can get a lot of time back in that way? And then I'd also look at, billing and revenue cycle management, and specifically payer mix, because for, the same patient base, you could have, some payers that are doing really well and other payers that are not. And so which of these payers do we need to stay in network with? Which of these payers should we consider moving patients over to a concierge plan, different fee-for-service style, all sorts of things there. And so, there are a lot of diagnostics that we can do. Those are some of the key things I'd look at first.
Absolutely. And it's all about starting somewhere, right? You got to start with the diagnosis, and then that may turn over some new things and some new revenue streams. And these are practices that are doing well. We're not saying these are practices are struggling. This is a practice that's humming. That sometimes busyness is almost can kind of lead to some sloppiness, and don't get your feathers ruffled out there. I'm not calling out your practice specifically, but like sometimes when you're crazy busy, you don't realize those little leaks are starting to pop up because you've gotten so caught up in the whirlwind of the day-to-day patient care that some of these things that you're talking about coming in and looking at might be overlooked in a busy practice, and it just needs an extra set of eyes to kind of see where it's heading.
Exactly. And I wouldn't expect that most people would catch, this specific problem or that specific problem. The expectation is that they, like you said, reach out for help, sooner rather than later. So that extra set of eyes can help. Yeah.
And honestly, man, sometimes the best time to ask for help is when things are going well, when you're humming, when you're really in your groove. Like, what are the one or two things that could really take me over the next step? Or what are the one or two things that are kind of getting left in the dust a little bit as we're so busy and spinning and so focused on X, Y, and Z? What is A, B, and C that we could be working on the back end?
Yes. And if you want to make it, if someone is listening and they're like, well, what does that look like specifically, it looks like you get to open that new location sooner. It looks like, your profits are 20%, 50% greater, with a variety of tools, with the right vendor partners. I mean, we're looking at money, we're looking at time, we're looking at the ability of the practice to scale. It's a lot of very meaningful things. So,
yeah. For sure. Absolutely. So kind of last question as we start to land the plane here, like y'all help with patient acquisition as well. So marketing trends, things getting in front of patients. What are you seeing are some of the big trends as we head into the back half of 2026 from a marketing patient acquisition standpoint?
Yeah. So this is a great question. This could be an entire episode here. But there's a lot of trends that we're seeing. So one of the big ones is it's more competitive than ever. So there are, markets across the country, metro areas, cities, suburbs, everything, you name it, that are very competitive, have a lot of new practices cropping up, and practices have to find a way to differentiate themselves. And so, one of the things that we look for when we're working with a client on their marketing is how can we differentiate them and provide them a unique brand that people will understand and will resonate with. It's not like the 10 or 15 other practices that are within, a driving distance that is, something that will keep patients coming back. The differentiation is huge. There's also a lot of new marketing channels that are opening up. So, more and more practices are focused on wellness, are focused on spa experiences, are focused on holistic care. And so what this means is that specific care needs to be, you need you need to use the right channels for that style of care. It means that you need to be using maybe TikTok to appeal to specific, younger audiences, who are going to become lifetime patients for your practices.
Right.
It means that you might need to look at, new ways, like, maybe you rely less on, flyers, and maybe you put more of your budget into digital marketing spend. It means that maybe you need to style your branding and the copy that you provide differently than how dental practices have done it or medical practices have done it for, decades. Maybe you need to really focus on offering new service lines. So the channels through which people can market themselves, it's a greater array than ever, and it's more complexity than ever. And so it really takes bringing on the right partner to navigate that with you.
Because we're more and more social media driven, man. Like I'm seeing it every day. I do a lot of social media advertising and marketing for myself and my real estate company. And there's so much that goes into that. Like I see so many like dentists and orthodontists and surgeons and people that are embracing that trend. They're doing the trendy stuff on TikTok, as you mentioned. They're doing the fun Instagram reels, just showing lighthearted ways. Like everything doesn't have to be so like serious in the advertising world, right? You can have some fun. You can be lighthearted, show the personalities of your staff and of your team. And that's going to win over a whole section of the population that may not look at a line item or new services. They're looking for the people that they can relate with and feel like they would relate with and have a good time being around while receiving treatments. More and more people are going to that. And so embracing some of those things that you're seeing on social media, I'm trying to do that. I'm having fun with it. I look like a goof, I'm sure, but like it helps. And it's just more eyes. Content is good. More eyes on it, even better. Right.
Yes. And two things. First, it's a brand new skill set. TikTok's been in the US, I don't even know, 5-6 years at this point. I mean, and it's evolved so much in the time it's been here. So, it's a brand new skill set. It's something that people really have to devote a lot of time to. And the second thing is, This is where people are spending their time. There are fewer people who are getting on Facebook, after work and, would be, looking at ads there. There are fewer people who are searching on Google for a new practice, more and more using AI search. So you're finding and identifying where people are spending their time, and you're making sure that you're being seen there. And it's completely new channels, and it's video content that people can scroll in their feed and say, hey, this is special, let this be my practice. So.
That's exactly right, man. Well, Zane, again, buddy, I really appreciate the time today. This was super insightful, impactful, and will not be the last time that you're on my podcast. And I'm sure you'll be on many more podcasts going forward. But this was super impactful for me, just kind of fully embracing and understanding what AI integration and what like that human touch looks like. So before we get you out of here, I got a couple rapid fire short answer questions for you. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. First one, are you a coffee guy or energy drink?
Huge coffee guy. I drink several cups a day. I'll just put it that way. I've gone through one in our time here. I'm a huge coffee guy. Although, I have more and more friends that are into energy drinks. So at some point, maybe I'll try to diversify.
Yeah. I'm more of a coffee guy myself. What's your coffee order? What do you typically go with?
So I typically will get a latte. I know, this might be controversial. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to have milk in my coffee. I want to taste it. I personally don't like the bitter taste of just black coffee. So I like the milk. I like the latte experience. I like, I'm looking right now at a mocha pot, so like, that's like my go-to during the day.
Gotcha. Awesome. Night in or night out?
I'm a big night in person. If you're basically like, if you're going to do a night out, it's got to be like, you've got to full send it. You've got to go all in.
Yeah.
So
for sure. I get that.
I can't go all in anymore.
We're getting older, Zane. We can't do that.
Yeah. That's why I default to a night in.
Yeah. I got you. Are you binge watching anything good right now?
Not really. I started watching The Mentalist and I thought it was kind of good, but there's a high threshold for me to binge watch something.
Yeah.
Like, for binge watching for me is like, I'll spend like half a day just watching episodes back to back.
Sure.
I don't remember the last time I did that. So
yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. All right. What's your perfect Saturday look like?
Oh, that's a good question.
And it could be seasonal. Like let's think summertime Saturday, since that's what it is.
So, a summertime Saturday, I like a balance of spending time outdoors and spending time indoors. So I would probably like to start the day off somewhat early, get out. San Francisco has beautiful weather and also just beautiful nature. So there's Golden Gate Park, there's Marin Headlands. There are great places to get out and just breathe in the natural air. So I probably want to do that, have a nice, lunch, nice dinner out maybe. And then, just something simple like let's watch a movie, let's have a glass of wine, and just a quiet night in. That's honestly probably a perfect Saturday for me. So,
love that, man. Love that. Last one for you. What's one thing about Zane Dash that I wouldn't find on LinkedIn?
Well, this is total cop out here, so I'm sorry, Rusty, but I'm 6'9", and so
I'm 6'5", and when we met in person, I'm like, not very many people I have to look up to.
Right, yes, and so that sort of thing, definitely doesn't come through unless you're in person, and most of the work that we do these days is virtual. So that is something, it's the best icebreaker in the world. It's a very easy way for people to get to know you through that. And I wouldn't have it any other way, although it does have its challenges with things like flying. So
like flying and finding britches that actually fit and whatnot. And I can tell you, like, it's so funny. Like I have so many times where we'll connect virtually and then I'll meet somebody in person and they're like, you're a lot bigger in person than you are on your computer. I'm like, I'm not this tall. Like there's a lot, like you just see from like my chest up. Like
exactly.
I'm a lot taller than you think I am.
Yeah. It's funny. It's, when we do so much remotely, it's, some things just get lost in translation, but that's exactly a piece. Yeah.
Well, again, Zane, thank you for the time today, brother. I really appreciate you. Let the people know where they can find you. I'm going to put your contact information, both your email and your LinkedIn profile here in the show description, but give the people one last shout out to Axon Health and how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So the best way to get in touch with me personally is my name, Zane at axonmso.com. Our team email, it was team@axonmso.com if you'd like to reach out there as well. Email works great. You can also fill out a contact form on our website, axonmso.com, or axondds.com for dental. And we're super responsive. So if you ever need anything, we'll get right back to you and we'll see what we can do.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining me here, guys. It's been another great episode of Coffee and Contracts. We'll be back again next week. In the meantime, y'all go be a friend to somebody who needs a friend. Drink your coffee, protect your profits. We'll see you back here on Coffee and Contracts next week.